Hey guys, it's Kevin, and this is the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I've been using it for about 2 weeks now, and it might be my favorite smartphone of 2023. It's not perfect, but I like the refinements Apple made this year. Build quality, USB-C, action button, A17 Pro, and cameras. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Okay, I'm going to start off by saying, most people don't upgrade their phone every year. I see a lot of comments about this year's iPhones looking a lot like last year's iPhones. And I agree, but smartphones are getting so good that there aren't many changes you can do to it. So if you upgrade from the iPhone 14 Pro Max to the 15 Pro Max, you might think it's the same. If you're coming from, let's say, an iPhone 10, that's when you'll see a lot of new changes. As a tech head, I notice all these little year-over-year improvements. They probably won't seem like much to the average person, but I like using and testing them out in everyday use. So Apple finally updated the build quality for this year's Pro phones. Kind of. Instead of a stainless steel glass sandwich, we now get a titanium glass sandwich. And I really enjoy the feel in the hand. On paper, it's only 21 grams lighter compared to the 14 Pro Max, which isn't that much. But trust me, once you actually hold it and use the phone, you'll be like, oh, this feels nice. I always thought heavy phones felt more premium, but I guess this new titanium frame, which is lighter and stronger, proved me wrong. I have a few phones here, and the 15 Pro Max weighs more than the Nothing Phone 2, but less than the Galaxy S23 Ultra. In terms of fingerprints, the brushed titanium does resist them better than stainless steel, but just by a tiny bit, especially on the darker colors. I went with blue titanium this year, and you can see the fingerprints and smudges. Luckily, the $20 Apple polishing cloth was updated to support the entire iPhone 15 series. If you put on a case or go with a lighter color, then you won't see them. But since I've been on Team No Case, it's something I've gotten used to. Also, the colored titanium has a PVD coating, so if and when I scratch it, I'll see the natural titanium underneath. Other than the new material, the edges are now softer. Before, they were like 90-degree angles, so it didn't fit the natural shape of your hand. I used to prefer the rectangular shape on the S23 Ultra, but now I appreciate the rounded corners, especially since I've been playing more mobile games. On the front, the screen is identical to the 14 Pro Max, the same 6.7-inch OLED display, the same 120Hz refresh rate, the same 2000 nits peak brightness, but the bezels are not the same. It's slightly thinner, giving you a larger screen-to-body ratio. Plus, Apple is able to shrink the entire body of the phone by about 1mm. If you're interested in the iPhone 15 Pro Max, I'll leave a link to it in the description box below. Alright, the most exciting feature, to me at least, is that new port on the bottom. Hello USB Type-C. Of course, this is all thanks to the EU who forced Apple to make the switch. So there are probably two sides of how people will embrace this new port. Camp A will be like, a new port? What am I supposed to do with all my existing lightning cables and accessories? And Camp B is like, USB-C. Finally, it's about time. If you're in Camp A, don't worry, Apple will gladly sell you a $29 USB-C to Lightning adapter. For people in Camp B, like myself, USB-C is purely for convenience. I have other devices that are USB-C, laptop, tablet, Android phones, SSDs, power banks, so I just bring one charger and cable to power everything. I have to admit though, I've been so used to having Lightning iPhones, I accidentally tried to plug one in this one. In my first impressions video, I mentioned that the included braided USB-C cable is limited to USB 2.0 speeds, even though the Pro models support USB 3. This is actually standard across smartphone companies. Samsung includes a USB 2.0 cable, and the same thing goes for Nothing. These cables are only for charging, so if you want to take advantage of the faster USB 3 speeds, you'll need another cable. They're usually shorter and thicker, like this one that came with the Samsung T7. The USB-C port also opens up a whole list of things you can do on the iPhone. You can charge AirPods, an Android phone, or even a Lightning iPhone. You can connect the keyboard to it and start typing away, or connect the monitor and have it output 4K 60. But the feature that I'd use the most is recording videos directly to an external drive. On prior iPhones, I would airdrop all the clips to a Mac, back them up to an SSD, then import them into Final Cut Pro. Now, I can save the 2 extra steps. You can record videos to about any drive like the T7, or this tiny flash drive, or an SD card. Do note that the drives need to be formatted to APFS for the iPhones to write to it. I'm just glad that's finally USB-C. The original iPhone had a 30-pin connector. 5 years later, Apple replaced it with Lightning in the iPhone 5. Then, 11 years later, the iPhone 15 has USB-C. So let's talk about that new action button. I low-key missed the ring silent switch because it gave me something to fidget with. But since my phone is always in silent mode, as every phone should be, it was a waste of space. So when Apple, for lack of a better word, ported the action button from the Apple Watch Ultra to the Pro iPhones, I was pretty excited. It defaults as a mute switch, so if you don't plan to use it, you can always leave it as is. But for the Pro users, when you go to the Sick UI under settings, you can set it to anything you want. Focus, camera, flashlight, voice memo, magnifier, shortcut, accessibility, and no action. I don't know who'd want to set it to do nothing, but it's an option. I currently have mine set to the camera app, so when I press and hold it, camera will launch right away. But then again, the camera and flashlight shortcut are right on the lock screen. Now, if only we can customize these, Apple. If you map the action button to shortcut, you'll have access to an endless amount of possibilities. You can start off simple like setting a timer, or adding a new reminder, or activating Google Assistant. But if you really want to go commando, you can go for it. I added 6 actions to the shortcut, so it'll turn on Do Not Disturb, set my smart lights at full brightness, play music from my favorite EDM artists, set the volume to 25%, AirPlay it to my HomePod minis, and a Notion page will open. But too bad it isn't a colored action button. That would have been pretty cool. Now that muting the phone is software-based, there's a new icon in Control Center. And if you're wondering, you can hide the icon in the status bar under Settings, Sound and Haptics. Pro tip, if you game a lot on your phone, you can create an automation, so every time you open a game, the phone will turn silent mode off and set it to a specific volume. And after you exit the game, you'll set the phone back to silent mode and whatever volume level you choose. Silent mode can also be tied to a focus mode. I'll keep it at camera for now until I can find a better use for it. I honestly don't use it as much as I wanted to since it's so high up on the phone. Like if Apple moved it under the volume buttons or the side button, it'd be more reachable. But I guess Apple kept it where the silent switch was because people are used to that location after 16 years. The A17 Pro chip is powering the Pro models this year, so no more of that bionic branding. And this is Apple's first 3nm chip. Here are the results from Geekbench. It's fast, almost M1 chip fast. But most people, including myself, won't notice the speed increase. iPhones have never been slow. I don't do too many intensive things either. It's just messaging, social media, watching videos, and creating these YouTube videos. If Apple added a DeX-like feature to the iPhone, that'd be a different story. But the one area where you'll see a big improvement is gaming. Apple showed some games during the keynote, and developers were able to add more detail, effects, and reflections thanks to the new chip. The Division Resurgence, Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, and even console games like Resident Evil and Assassin's Creed. Better performance, more headroom, it's great. But how's the battery life? Well, I may have set my expectations a little too high. I can get about 3 to 5 hours of use with a little more than 50% battery remaining. I think the battery life is on par with the 14 Pro Max, which is kind of a bummer. I am running a beta version of iOS 17.1, so that could be it too. But the good news is that I haven't had any of those overheating issues I've seen floating around. It did get hot, but I was at Disneyland in 97-degree weather with max brightness and taking photos and videos. On that day, I was able to get 6 hours of use with about 25% battery remaining. Unfortunately, even with USB-C, there's no fast charging. It still maxes out at 25 watts, 0 to 50% in 30 minutes. So nothing crazy like Samsung's 45 watt charging or OnePlus's 100 watt charging. Maybe next year. Apple did add some new battery features, but only on the iPhone 15 series, for some reason. In Settings, General, About, there's a new battery section that shows the manufacture date, first use, and cycle count. And under Settings, Battery, Battery Health, Charging, you can set the charging limit to 80% to reduce battery aging. On the back, we have the same triple camera system we've seen for years now, wide, telephoto, and ultra-wide, but they have been improved across the board. For everyday photos, the 48 megapixel camera will now bend down to 24 megapixels instead of 12, so you get more detail at a smaller file size. The sky looks bluer, food looks tastier, and Disneyland looks happier. I'm just kidding. I honestly can't tell the difference between this year and last year's cameras. It's only when I punch in and pixel peep. Macro mode got better, so you can get really close-up shots. There's a new feature for portrait photos. Instead of going in the camera app and switching to portrait mode, you can now take a regular photo, and the iPhone will automatically detect the subject, mostly people and pets, and you can manually turn it into a portrait photo. Apple added new focal lengths to the main camera, 24mm, 28, and 35. So if you like that tighter look, you can always switch to it. All of the photos I take are in the full 48 megapixel RAW files. The file sizes are a lot larger, but I like to edit my photos. And they're very detailed and vibrant. Here are some photos taken at Disneyland. There's also a new 5x zoom, only available on the Pro Max model. And I gotta say, it's really nice to have. There's nothing compared to Samsung's 10x optical zoom though. Now that there's a 5x zoom, the zoom range between 2x and 5x is digital. Just something to keep in mind. You can see this transition when I go from 4.9x to 5. Another pro tip, if you tap and hold the Pro format in the top right corner, you can quickly switch between the different options, instead of diving deep in the settings app. As a beginner content creator, I shoot all of my videos on a smartphone, and the iPhone still records the best videos. It shoots up to 4K 60, so no 8K, but it's perfectly fine. Autofocus is super fast, the details are really sharp, and the stabilization is great. The camera lenses have a new coating on them, but if you record any lights, there's still that haloing effect. You can record ProRes videos on these new phones, but it's now up to 4K 60 if you record directly to an external SSD or SD card. I may try it one of these days since airdropping ProRes footage was slow. You can also shoot in log. The colors are very muted, but you have more information and control post-edit. I'm looking forward to seeing how my future videos will turn out with these new cameras. So is it worth the upgrade? Well, it depends. If you have last year's model, or the 13, or 12, then you'll be okay with skipping this one. but if you have an 11 or earlier, you'll definitely notice all these new changes and features. What do you think about the iPhone 15 Pro Max? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll be notified when I post new videos. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!